All right, are we live? Super. Hello, everyone. My name is John Dale. We broadcast from the corner of Canyon and Jackson here in sunny Spearfish, South Dakota. And I wanted to bring a couple of things to your attention today. First, just a quick update and some history about Plains Tribune and plainstribune.com. Plains Tribune was born in Whitewood, South Dakota, actually, in the living room of a single wide trailer of some family members who were giving me a place to work and play music and develop this business into a cottage enterprise here in South Dakota. Do a little research in Whitewood, South Dakota. Don't read too much into that. I just happen to have family in the area, and that was around 2014. This technology, the Plains Tribune technology that underlies it, was actually not built in 2014, but it's something that has been a long time coming. Growing Business Solutions is an LLC I founded in 2004, give or take. So let's see, 2004, 2014. So in 2024, to be 20 years old. And it's that platform that makes the distribution technology of Plains Tribune possible. And we weren't just building another website or using somebody else's open source technology. We actually did software engineering, and we put together a platform for communications for the United States of America. And it was built in Whitewood, South Dakota, very humbly. Now, Plains Tribune eventually evolved because we had some advice from some military people in the area that we shouldn't do encryption, that we should focus more on like a classified ad thing and just take the money and shut up. So being respectful and not wanting to step on toes and being somewhat powerless and wanting to understand the lay of the land, we took that advice. Then in the beginning of Trump's term, we kind of relaunched ourselves and relaunched Plains Tribune as a podcast and a blog and a think tank and a platform to distribute the analysis that we were seeing coming in about this phenomenon of the Trump presidency. And so that modified and morphed into what you actually saw before we took Plains Tribune offline and transferred it to Spearfish City Limits. All of that content from the Trump era is still available at spearfishcitylimits.com. But originally, it was an America First communication platform that was built not to simply service the needs of the intelligence community, but rather to service the privacy and communication needs of the normal American citizens who were being stolen from, in my view. And the reconnaissance and the beachhead for that was coming from social networking platforms. And as I watched Main Street bleed out from the business espionage that was occurring through these platforms that were being used for more than law enforcement, my heart ached for these small businesses who are getting killed, proverbially speaking, and in some cases, literally. And I've always wanted to make a return to that when I felt it was efficacious and I understood the lay of the land. I've met enough people in the military, law enforcement, and the intelligence community to take another shot at this, I believe, efficaciously and safely. Because the consternation, the problems we see now, in my opinion, are a result of violations of privacy, which make a whole host of other problems possible. So the first announcement, I guess, of this particular broadcast is that I wanted to let you know there are a lot of changes coming to Plains Tribune. We've taken it offline, and I have some emergency messages up there for the gap of time between when we launch and when we actually go public. So we've launched the new plainstribune.com already. It's already launched. It's just an internal soft launch, and we're not quite ready to go public. But it looks like that's going to happen later this week. So please pay attention to plainstribune.com. Check back daily, which leads me to the next announcement that I have, or the next issue. It appears as though the South Dakota Deep State is making its move. It's making its big move right now by attacking one of the most conservative people I've ever met, and that would be Julie Frye-Mueller. And I believe she's from the Rapid City area. We live in Spearfish in Lawrence County, so that'd be Pennington County. Can't tell you what her district is off the top of my head. All I know is that the things she fights for are good things. And making an example of her, in my opinion, is going to have a spectacular backfire. They may actually get Julie Frye-Mueller out of the Senate somehow, ultimately, but most of South Dakotans are looking at this in horror because the Senate has suspended due process in order to do this. And then once you look at the substance of what they're basing their actions on, you can tell it seems like it's right out of the Democrat playbook. And so there are some influencers within our own Senate and within our own state government who I think are convincing other folks to do things that are not really in keeping with their core values. And so let's talk about that now. So now I'm not a very religious person. People who know me as a very fair and intellectually honest person. And that means that I'm not very religious. I'm so conservative that I haven't made that decision in my life yet. That's a step that I'm taking very carefully when it comes to religion. However, when I do come across some axiom or some colloquial saying, or Sprichwort is the German word, from any religion that is cogent and valid and sound, it makes sense, it's good old common sense, I tend to remember it or write it down or use it as I'm doing my reflection and analysis. Guiding principles. I get a lot of guiding principles from a lot of different religions, and this is one. And I want to share that with you today to help you contextualize what's happening in the South Dakota Senate. Let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building up the one in need and bringing grace to those who listen. This is a beautiful axiom out of the Bible. That would be Ephesians 4:29 if you want to go check it out. Let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouths. Well, what is unwholesome? Unwholesome means harmful to a person's mind and their psychology, or literally harmful to their body. So if you say something that causes someone to do something that hurts themselves, that could be considered potentially unwholesome talk. If you say something that encourages someone to do something healthy for their body and subsequently healthy for their mind, you have made wholesome talk. And that's in keeping with this biblical principle that I'm speaking to now. And so this for me is the test of whether or not it's a good idea to go after Julie Frye-Mueller on these issues. So let's talk about what these issues are. Apparently, according to the complaint that I read, Julie was in an office with a South Dakota bureaucrat from the LRC and engaged in a consensual conversation with her. The conversation had two elements to it. The first element was babies and breastfeeding, and the second element was vaccinations. Now, anybody who knows Julie knows that she has been on top of the vaccination issue since the very beginning. Dr. Francis Boyle is a great reference. Look him up on Wikipedia. We have interviews and quotations from him reposted at spearfishcitylimits.com. If you scroll down, you'll find them, wherein he warns us all about the dangers and downsides of these shots. They're not vaccines. They changed the definition of what a vaccine was to accommodate this experimental mRNA genetic therapy. It's not a vaccine. It's an experiment, a crazy experiment that is hurting a lot of people, from myocarditis to strokes to heart attacks and other complications. Going to the hospital to be treated for COVID was part of this. It's a very big picture. One reference that you should research is Matt Taibbi on Twitter, as well as Dr. Robert Malone. It is clear that these vaccinations, quote unquote, are not efficacious. They don't work. They don't stop the spread of COVID. They don't help people with COVID. They don't help prevent COVID. What they do is bolster the budgets and the bottom lines of vaccine manufacturers. Wildly popular, wildly profitable. That's why they're popular. So that issue is settled. The science was actually settled from the very beginning when you look at the origins of this technology. The guy who invented it, Dr. Robert Malone. Go check out his Twitter. He recommends that we do not use this technology. The inventor says it's too dangerous to use, along with Sherry Tenpenny and Judy Mikovits and many, many others. Peter McCullough, Dr. Peter McCullough, is world renowned in his field. He is also coming out against these. It's over. The issue is decided. The truth of the matter is decided. So all that's left for the people who have pushed it and profited from it is Hitlerian type of fascistic Nazi Germany, totalitarian tactics. Lock down the media, censor, 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 and persecute and make people have struggle sessions right out of the communist playbook. And that's what's happening, in my view, to Julie Frye-Mueller right now. She's being attacked because she stood up to these vaccine manufacturers in a big way, early, before it was cool and hip and popular to do so. To her credit, she should be getting an award from the South Dakota Senate, not persecuted. So that's the first issue. So she mentioned in this meeting with this gal, in a way that only Julie can, vociferously and with passion, wholesomely, advising this woman to not give her baby any vaccinations. Ted Kennedy Jr. is another resource that you should look up on Twitter or elsewhere. He's got websites as well. And you can see there's been a lot of damage from vaccines. And it's not something that is proven to work time and time again, tried and true, as reliable as an old Ford or an old Chevy or an old Dodge, whatever is your preference, or an old Peugeot, whatever. So to Julie's credit, she was being wholesome in her heart and sharing this information because, in her view, correctly, according to the people who really know, it's a terrible idea to get these shots for your baby. So she was acting wholesomely. Regardless of the tone and timbre and style of her delivery, she was acting wholesomely and with truth on her side, in keeping with the good book. The other conversation is actually more interesting, and I could actually talk about this for an hour. We're talking about boobs. We're talking about breastfeeding. Julie's advice to this person who recently either had a baby or was pregnant and expecting was that your husband can help out a little bit if you want to bring your milk in. Breastfeeding, on record, it's widely known, is the best thing you can do for your infant. In normal circumstances, assuming that there's not a drug addiction problem or a prescription medication problem that's causing a toxic milk to come out of the mother, breastfeeding is the way to go. And you want to have enough. And that baby's going to drink as much as you can give it. And it's going to grow, 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 grow. And get those important calories from that particular source, just as God intended. Breastfeeding is a wonderful thing, but it's been made to be icky. By who? Maybe it's the same people in the medical community making gobs of money from cutting breasts off and genitally mutilating women and men, boys and girls. This is not a pretty picture. And if you want to know why Julie is riled up, think about this. Think about the gravity, the corruption, the depth of that evil. And ask yourself, is Julie being wholesome and giving this woman advice about how to produce more natural, wholesome breast milk for her baby in a way that increases the intimacy that a woman can have with her mate? This is a beautiful thing, but it's been made to be icky by ignorant, greedy people. So I stand by Julie after reading this silly complaint, which to me plays like a hit piece. In my opinion, it's a hit piece that's been picked up by the deep state of South Dakota, who's probably butt cheek deep in investments in Pfizer and Moderna. I don't know for sure. What if we dug into it a little bit to find out who's got stock in what? Which of these senators has stock in Pfizer or other big pharmaceutical technology? This is central to me. I want to know what someone's motives are. Certainly, they had the opportunity and the means to surrender due process. What an embarrassment for South Dakota this is. What an absolute disgrace to suspend due process like that. How embarrassing for us. South Dakota's reputation will suffer. The people who live here are going to have to deal with it. The people who live here, the rank and file, coast to coast, South Dakotan, are being represented by these people. And that schmutz is going to get on us. South Dakota suspended due process, persecuted its most conservative senator for two things that were clearly wholesome. So that's my view, and that's my analysis. And I stand with Julie Frye-Mueller. We don't agree on everything. She's way more religious than I am. But I can meet you guys in the middle on a lot of this stuff. When there's a good core principle like this one, let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building up the one in need and bringing grace to those who listen. Ephesians 4:29. I can get on board with that. I want to be a good person. I don't have to join a church to do it, though. That's probably where we butt heads a lot. Because some people need bodies in the churches, for whatever reason. God bless them. Well, that's what I wanted to share with you, those two things. Plains Tribune will be having some major changes, and we hope you'll join us in that. We had about 30,000 unique IP addresses a month. 30,000 a month for a site with a budget of about $22 a month. 30,000. Pretty good reach. That's our business, this line of business, quote unquote, that's our budget, $22. 30,000 unique IP addresses a month. Coming to our information, recommending it to friends and family because it was honest. It's not bought and paid for by corporations, totalitarian fascism. That's what it is. When corporations purchase your government, that's fascism and totalitarianism. Seems like that's what we've got. It's a bad problem, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Even the people who work at Pfizer, a good portion of them are super good people who are only there because they wanted to infiltrate Watchdog, Bird Dog, and if the time comes, pull the trigger, proverbially or otherwise. At some point, it's conceivable in the future that violence and kinetic warfare can erupt in these buildings and end all of this. That would be my stern, heartfelt, wholesome warning to people within the medical community, the administrative tier, the investment tier, the violence promulgating tier of big pharma, is there are people right next to you who are ready to wage war. I don't want to see it. It isn't going to be me. I believe in the pencil. The pencil is mightier than the pen, which is mightier than the sword, which is mightier than the shot. That's my tool. And I don't want to see even really terrible people. It breaks my heart when they're in pain or when their ride is over in this life. I really don't want to see that. The tit for tat, the Hatfields and the McCoys, the back and forth, the death, the violence. We don't want that. So let's get some sanity. Quit comparing people to cancer, Lee Schoenbeck, and listen to people with good analysis and thoughtful insight that's driven by principles, because that's what conservatism is. My name is John Dale, broadcasting from the corner of Canyon and Jackson in Spearfish, South Dakota. Conservative foothold in a progressive community. Thank you so much for all of your support. We'll be back around the bend with wonderful content, technology, and analysis, and music and art soon. So thanks for everybody who's jumped on the ship with us so far. And we look forward to more great experiences together, making good, solid, informed decisions together. Thank you so much. Have a great day.